Hello, everyone, and welcome to 3 Words, a bite-sized podcast about the very simple and yet strategic choices to becoming the best version of yourself. I'm here today with my dear friend, Casey Greenawalt, and I'm excited to have you here on set today at Bowling Green State University. And I would invite you to share with us our 3 words for the day.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. I'm super excited to be here again today. And our 3 words for our conversation today are invite, honest, feedback.
You know, as I was thinking about this particular podcast, Casey, particularly doing this with you, I was really excited not only to have this conversation with you, but also to focus in on those 3 words very specifically.
Yeah.
Those 3 words were selected with great intentionality. The first of which is to invite. Not just to wait for feedback, not just to crack the door in hopes that someone won't come in, or maybe shut the door, lock the door in hopes that someone won't come in and offer you feedback at the office, but actually walk around, interact with people and say, would you offer me feedback for my life?
Yeah.
And that feedback is honest.
Yeah.
100% honest, not flattery, not all of these fake compliments, but actually genuine, honest feedback, both positive and constructive as to who we are becoming. And then I just love that word feedback. It's a scary word. It's an idea and a notion that oftentimes, if we're honest, we're not looking for it. But those who do not want to receive feedback regularly and ongoing in their lives, they lack one thing, and that is a growth mindset. So if you have, as you do, Casey, and I've watched you for the past several years really seeking to grow and develop as a young man and as a professional, that if you are longing and if you are committed to growing into the better version of yourself, well, of course, bring it on.
Yeah. I think when you first sent me these words, like, hey, we're going to have this conversation around this, my mind went to the moment in my life that I did not invite honest feedback. I think now, first of all, I appreciate your words. Very kind. I do appreciate that. And I have been very intentional about inviting honest feedback into my life. But there was a moment and a time and a place where 19-year-old Casey, headed into his career, did not invite honest feedback. I remember the moment. I was on the way back from a conference, and we took some of the content we had learned at the conference, and so we started kind of talking through it, and it led to a conversation where the area that I was in charge of and oversaw was starting to get some of this feedback, and some people with just great intentions wanted to help, they were giving some great feedback. And I was defensive. I was quick to tell them why it wasn't wrong or why it wouldn't work, or why they didn't see the whole thing going on. And I just remember that because I had a leader after that instance actually pull me aside and kind of give me that feedback that I didn't take the feedback well.
Awesome.
But I think the reason was I was looking for my value in my performance at my job. Who I was, the value I had as a human being was how well I was doing and performing at my job, which I think is oftentimes why we don't seek after feedback, or when we do, or when it's maybe mandated by our employer, we get that feedback and we think, oh, this is a reflection of who I am, not necessarily the choices that I'm making, which I think is a huge, huge part. So knowing you're a human being, and because you're a human being, you have value. That's where you have to anchor that in. And then you can start to invite that feedback, because it's not determining your value. It's helping you become the best version of yourself.
Right. And while your performance does not define your value and your worth. I love this idea of being truly valuable as human beings. In fact, I want to just take it the next step. It is because, Casey, it is because we have such incredible intrinsic value that we should be quick to invite honest feedback into our lives. Because if we are valuable and our life is short and opportunities are always and ever before us, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we invite those folks into our lives who know us best, who will be honest to actually offer constructive feedback as to who we're becoming and how we're behaving? You know, it's interesting. I am more and more convinced, Casey, that none of us as human beings see ourselves accurately. When I look at in the mirror, my tendency is to see myself worse off than I am, or better off than I am. So we tend to be out of touch with reality. And the reason is it's hard to see ourselves without the feedback of others. And so when you're bringing people around you that you trust, and when you're taking in that feedback, and you obviously need to measure it and you need to reflect upon it, because there's going to be feedback that you're going to receive over the years that isn't honestly the best feedback.
And that was one of the things that person told me was some things you have to be able to take feedback even when you may not trust that person, even when it may not be 100% correct, there might be pieces in it that you can take. What's true is the question you should ask yourself after receiving feedback.
Well, and even as a life coach, this is what I do all the time.
Right.
I'm offering feedback. People are inviting me into their lives. Sure. They're letting me see and peek in and offer solutions and troubleshoot with them and principles and practices and perspective. But when I seek to do that by myself, about myself, it's as though I'm blind. And so every one of us, even as we can give feedback and offer those kind of insights to others, it's really challenging to do it for ourselves. But oftentimes, because we avoid conflict within our culture and in our society, it is a rare person who will actually step into our lives uninvited to offer feedback. And so that's why I think we need to be very intentional about that. And particularly in my role, Casey, as a life coach and a consultant, I feel like I need feedback so desperately. And yet individuals aren't offering that to me freely on their own intentionality. And so I actually quite regularly am walking to the people and interacting with people, walking to the people, interacting with the people that know me best. And even our team, DMB coaching and the different roles that I play on campus here at Bowling Green State University and around the country, I am often asking two questions.
I love these questions. They're so
I'm asking these two questions, and they're questions I'm asking on a regular basis, and I've done so now for many, many years. The first question is, what is the most annoying thing about me?
Because funny, it just makes me laugh.
Well, it is. And what it does, and the reason I came up with that word annoying is because I'm inviting the brutal honesty.
Totally.
If I came to someone and said, so would you sense that maybe quite possibly there might be maybe one or two areas where I need to develop?
You're great.
You're
great.
But I want to literally go to the core of the issue and say, no, what's most annoying about me? And then they can't say, well, nothing. No, honestly. What is annoying? The second question I like to ask is, what do you think, from your perspective, is my Achilles heel? That thing that you see in my life that you're not certain I see about myself. That you want to bring to my attention. And they don't need to answer it necessarily on the spot. But I want them to at least reflect upon it and get back to me in short order because, oh my goodness, Casey.
So I actually did this.
What I learned about myself is amazing. You've done this as well.
Yeah, so I did this. You mentioned this. I've heard you say it a while back, and I was like, I'm going to try this. So I have a direct report at work, and I asked her, I said, hey, I'll give you about a week or two. I want you to think about this.
Ooh, a whole 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. I just asked her the question. I said, what is most annoying about me? I didn't ask her the second question, just the first one. And when she came back, her answer, first of all, and the way she answered it was so helpful. When you ask someone that question, you're inviting them into a whole new vulnerable space. It makes someone, I think it automatically builds trust when you simply just ask that question. And
great point.
Yeah, she thought about it. She was very intentional about, okay, what I want to bring value to Casey right now. I want to help him become the best leader he can be. And so when I answer this question, I'm not just going to say the first thing that comes to my mind. You empower someone when you're asking that question, right? So she took 2 weeks, she came back, and her answer was so helpful. It was, she first elevated my strengths. She said, Casey, you've got great ideas all the time. You're an idea guy. You bring me stuff and I love it. But sometimes I don't feel like you equip me with the right tools to be able to execute your ideas. How helpful is that?
Very helpful.
And empowering to me and empowering to her to say, oh, I just need to give you things to do what my ideas are and you'll get them done. And she's like, yeah, I'll do it. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. I just need you to empower me to do that. And it was just a great, honest conversation. And I left it going, man, what a better relationship we have. We still have that conversation ongoing to this day because I recognize, and you talked about self-awareness a little bit. Self-awareness, the self can only become so aware. You need other people and other people's perspective to help you become more self-aware because our strengths are often our biggest weaknesses too. And so we have to learn how to leverage those.
And you mentioned, obviously you threw out this idea of the 19-year-old Casey. Versus now the 25-year-old Casey. And for most folks who are probably listening or watching on our YouTube channel or listening to our podcast, they might not realize you're only 25 years old. And even within our company and within my world and my sphere of influence, I continue to give you more and more and more opportunities to speak and consult. And every time you walk into spaces, I'm continuing to see you flourish and grow and become even more than I would have imagined.
Thanks, man.
And I'm guessing it's because of these things. It's because of this idea that you continually lean in, that you continually ask great questions. I'm guessing even that conversation you had that you just mentioned, it probably has manifested itself in such positive ways in so many different environments since then because of one initiative for you to invite, but then also her ability and her willingness.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, as you said, she probably respects you much more.
Yeah. And it's almost this too, pick your pain, right? Like it's either going to be really hard because you're never going to see what is wrong with you and what are the things you can work on, or you can take a second and invite someone into that tough conversation, because on the other side of that tough conversation is a better relationship, 2 better employees. And this goes beyond just work too. I think in every dimension of life, you've got to invite people into giving you honest feedback. I think about relationships, whether it's your spouse or your friends. How am I as a friend? How am I as a spouse? What's the most annoying thing about me as a husband?
Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. Like, what a question.
My wife would probably have a list.
She might already tell you that. You might not have to invite that. That might be something she's already saying. But in every dimension of life, finances, our emotional health, our physical health, all of those things, we invite honest feedback from people. It's going to help us overall become that best person that we want to be.
And you've mentioned this notion of the hard conversations. And I'm guessing there's some of our listeners or those who are viewing us right now who are thinking to themselves, well, I'm getting feedback regularly that I did not invite from those who I do not trust and from individuals who I'm not sure I want their perspective on my life. And I want to say to them and share with them a lesson I have learned, that even my greatest critic that is uninvited to come into my life and speak into my life, I need to lean in because I am firmly convinced that even in those scenarios, there is a grain of truth. There's something that I can take away, that I can learn, that I can grow. So I just want to say this as we wrap up this podcast. You're listening to this podcast because you want to grow. You're listening to these podcasts and watching this YouTube video because you want to become the best version of yourself. It won't happen unless you are on a regular basis soliciting, inviting, honest feedback. So Casey, thank you for being here today. Thank you for modeling, even as a young man, what I wish I would have done even at your age. It was probably later on, post 25, when I began to take seriously this very important principle, which is invite honest feedback. For life coaching, consulting services, or to hire a keynote speaker, please visit dmbcoaching.com.